All right, so this is our ninth day in Portugal. We just finished up the wine tour the day before, and today we're driving from Porto to the Silver Coast, to the Algarve, to the beach. So we started early in the morning. We probably woke up around, or left around 6 or
Yeah, 6 or
seven.
7.
And our first stop was Coimbra, and there was supposed to be a church there that was supposed to be cool to look at. So that's where we went first. The church of São Jose, but when we got there, it was not open, so we didn't get to see that. We ended up going on to the Coimbra Botanical Gardens and the aqueducts, which are right there. Those I thought those were really cool. They're just really tall, really old aqueducts that run through the city. And then the botanical gardens were really cool. I thought they were really cool. They just had a wide variety of plant life that shouldn't be together. They had like banana trees next to pines and sequoias. So they had like the tropical stuff near the right next to the northern climate fauna, which was really cool because you can do that in Portugal.
University, Frank knew we needed to go see it. I didn't know anything about it, but what is fascinating is just how old this place is. I mean, is it like 2nd century or something?
I don't know.
I mean, super old. This university's been there for centuries. Different reigns of kings, and it's beautiful. And you just love putting your feet somewhere where people for thousands of years have walked before you and imagining what it was like for them. It was a gorgeous day. It was just beautiful. There's a library there. What's it called?
Biblioteca Juanina or Jonina.
They were doing construction on the site, renovations, and so they were being pretty guarded in limiting how many people went through, and you had to make appointments. So unfortunately, we weren't able to go through and see the library at that time.
Yeah, we would have had to stay there, wait for 2 hours before they had an opening. I didn't want to hang out for 2 hours waiting.
Me neither.
So we ended up leaving there. That was Coimbra, and right outside, I guess, is south, maybe 30 minutes south of Coimbra, is some Roman ruins. I have never seen Roman ruins, so in my head, I was expecting maybe an acre of rubble. But we probably walked around that place for an hour or two, at least. And it was super big. It had the rubble, it had the remains, it had partial buildings, and then they also had parts where they had restored, like the main part of the plaza. They had restored the fountains, and had restored some other parts. So I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, the more you looked, the more of all of the details you could see. Like, I didn't really realize what I was looking at when we first got there. I mean, you could see parts of like the road that they said this is the Roman road, and then you walk down and then you see parts of like where this people lived, and this is the baths, and this is maybe their commerce area, and it just went on, and then you started to imagine it when it was built up and people were there, and it was fascinating. And then the mosaic parts, to the mosaic tiling, just the intricacy, the detail of the remains, it was pretty fascinating. I've never seen anything like that before. The only thing I've ever seen are the aqueducts. So it was very interesting.
Yeah, and again, the size of it was amazing. They weren't even like halfway done excavating, there were still acres they had to excavate that they hadn't. It was really neat, and they had the fountains there that they were actually working, so you could see what it actually looked like back in like the 1st century. So I thought it was pretty amazing.
It was also, I'm not going to remember this correctly, but the layers of time and possession of the land that was shown as well. Like the Romans at a certain point originally built it, but then at some point there was maybe the Moors had come at some point. So there's like a transition period. Like there was a big wall that had also been built around it. Like somebody took it over at some point too. It was just fascinating.
So we spent a lot of the day there, just walking around, looking at it. And then we were pretty hungry, so that place was pretty much in the middle of nowhere. So we just continued on to Tomar, which was the next large city on our way down. And we stopped in Tomar for lunch. And that was a nice little, like, real quiet, quaint little town. It was modern, but it was real quiet. We had lunch on the street. It was tasty. And then outside of Tomar was the Convent of Christ. And I had never been to a convent before.
That was huge.
And it just went on and on and on. Like every time you went down a new hallway, it was just like an entire new city block of stuff. It was all amazing. The stonework there was amazing. They had carved stone stairs that spiraled upwards, which, I mean, the stonework there was just really ridiculous. Everything was just technically beautiful, artistic-wise. Just so much ornate and detailed work went into it. All the ceilings were different, and amazing. But that place just kept going and going and going and going.
And it was neat. You could see in the convent area, you know, like where the nuns lived, there was like a dormitory, hallways. And so you could see how the nuns lived, like what their rooms looked like. I think some of them had been restored, obviously, but pretty much original style. And this place also, if I remember correctly, had like its original foundational building early on, and then it had been added to.
And it had these courtyards everywhere. There was a castle part we were trying to get to, but we never really got to it. We saw it, but we couldn't get to it. And there were rundown parts, rundown courtyards, and then there were built up modern parts. They were setting up for like a party in one area.
I would imagine that people could have weddings there or local festivals. It looked like there was going to be some sort of a music venue happening. That cathedral part, it was gorgeous, like octagon. It was fascinating. I mean, not an octagon, obviously there's so many sides, but it was round.
And they had these paintings
Murals
on the walls that were crazy old. They restored some of them. Some of them were still in their original deteriorated state. I believe this was one of the older parts of the building as well. It was just pretty amazing that people could build and
the woodwork,
create.
yeah. That's what I'm always just in awe of, is how so long ago, with what we think is lack of technology and tools and resources, yet they were able to produce such amazing creations with their hands and their mind and the tools they did have. It's pretty cool.
So we spent
Probably a while there too.
a few hours there as well. I didn't think we'd be stopped for so long. I thought we would spend most of our time just driving, getting to the Silver Coast. But we spent a lot of time at the Roman ruins, and then we spent probably the same amount of time here. I think towards the end we were like just looking for how to get out.
It was fun.
Because we had gone so deep in. And I was I didn't, like, you just keep going through these corridors and you just keep seeing courtyards over and over and over again. And you think I saw this one before, but it was different every time. And there were tours going on as well, but we weren't going with the tours. We were just running through looking at it. And you just get into these hallways that go on for like football fields. I mean,
those were the convent dorms.
The dorms.
Yeah, that's where the nuns lived. And then they had different levels, like, I just think of The Sound of Music, and little Maria is, the entry level training nun, and then the more older, advanced, mature mentor nuns. And they had, I don't know what you call them, but they had different areas for like the first year nuns, and then the long-termers. It was very interesting. Oh, and then there was the art gallery,
which was way out of place. It was like astronauts and dolphins.
It was like the sea, yeah.
Oh, it had to do with like
nature,
protecting nature.
Protecting the sea from pollution.
Oh, not astronauts, knights.
Yeah, it was the knights were defending the sea from pollution and plastics and stuff like that.
It just seemed really out of place.
It
was a little bit weird, but there was just so much space there that.
Oh, the old kitchen was neat.
Oh yeah, the original kitchen.
The original kitchen and the original oil barrels.
Mm-hmm.
But
there were gardens all over outside. You couldn't get to most of them though. You could see them out the windows though. You could just see all kinds of stuff. It just kept going and going.
And so then we drove on.
We were tired by then, so then we just got in the car and drove straight down to the Silver Coast, where we went to the town Armacao de Pera, and stayed at the Hostel Supremo.
It was a pretty nice hostel. We got there, I guess, late afternoon, early evening.
Yeah, it was early evening. It was like 6, I think.
And then we took a walk down to find the beach.
Mm-hmm. It was maybe a 15-minute walk to the beach.
Yeah, at the most.
We went out, and beautiful. It was our first look at the beach, but it just opened up, and it was huge. Well, there's small cliffs right there when you walk out, but then there's just a ton of sand and beach area.
And it went on forever.
Yeah, as far as you could see.
We walked a lot of it that night, and then we walked more of it the next day.
Mm-hmm. We went a little bit through the touristy part of the city there.
Trying to figure out what we were going to eat or whatever.
Right. I don't think we
didn't end up eating anything because I think we were just too tired and we couldn't decide what we wanted.
And we had snacks on the drive. We ate snacks. So that night we just ended up going back to the hostel and going to bed. When we got to the hostel, we couldn't pay because their machine wasn't working or something. And the lady that was working, she's like, "Whatever, just leave your stuff and we'll figure it out later."
Yeah, super nice.
Yeah.
And she was his teacher too. She was a
Mhm.
school teacher, and this was like a side job for her.
Yeah.
It was kind of neat to make that connection with her. The beach was gorgeous. I didn't know what to expect. Beautiful white sands, beautiful clear water, the cliffs in the backdrop. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, but that was a good long day of driving. I think we probably spent more time out of the car than we did in the car with our stops. I think in total it was 6 hours to
Mhm.
get there.
Yeah.
And so we probably spent 6 hours walking through the convent and the ruins. So we did a good, what do you call it?
Sightseeing.
Yeah, we did good
We
sightseeing.
did a good road trip where we took our time and enjoyed the journey.
Mm-hmm. So that was relaxing. The drive is super relaxing. The roads there, the highways there are so fantastic, and just make driving fun. So usually I'm pretty tired after driving and my back hurts, but didn't really feel like that. Maybe because we got out and walked so much. But yeah.
It was a nice day. And it was not originally planned, too.
Oh yeah, because when I was planning the trip, I was looking at times to get places, and for some reason it was saying like it was 12 hours to get from Porto to the Algarve. But when we got to Portugal, sometime there I was looking on the maps, and when I looked, it was like only 6 hours. And it didn't make any sense. But that's how long it takes, so.
So then Frank was like, well, shoot, we can go to the beach. So we planned to
We just made a day.
leave Porto and just go to the beach, and added that extra beach day, which was great.
But that was our day 9, and we got one more full day in Portugal to go.